first event, log for reps, all 12-inch logs, rep from the floor, floor to overhead, 52 kilos or 70 kilos. So there's a trump log approach. I would imagine it would be 1 rep at the heavier log beats any amount of reps at the lighter log. So for the 90s, it's 120. So I think this is a fantastic way, by the way, of bringing in people who really want to do this kind of level of comp and really want to put themselves out there against people, but who aren't quite as strong as lifting the heavy weights yet, who'd maybe not be confident if entering the comp if it was just the trump weight options, which I've seen one recently. I think it's the Welsh that I really didn't like what was posted on the thing. The events were posted up, and then they looked really good and really fun actually. And I was, but one of the things was it said something about no options, just get stronger or something. So it was just one, I suppose, elite standard option of, I can't remember what it was, whatever, stone for reps or whatever. And it was just, I was just thinking, as the standards gone up, like the prerequisites of being able to even hit the, just the entry level at that is really high, which is fine. But then when certain comps are turning around and saying, "Oh, we're struggling to fill the people, struggling to fill it out," or there's not as much interest here. I think this is a brilliant model to actually get that in, get those people in who want to get some experience competing against the stronger people, but also, which also mixes up the other points in the other stuff. So yeah, the 12-inch log. What would you be thinking of at Kaos? Like what would the setup be? Describe the setup.
It's usually the strength shop log, isn't it? I think it's about 47.5 empty. So it'll be that log loaded up and the long log pads, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Usually.
So the strength shot log is like similar size to your standard pretty big metal log in a gym. Like a Celtic strength one or a Rebel strength one ish, similar in length. It's not going to be a short stumpy one that you sometimes see. So what's good about that? I think that's an important thing, because even if you're doing the 52 for reps, assuming that it is with this log, that what's really good for, say, especially if you're jerking. So I notice I hate using short stubby logs. That's why it's important to find out little things like this, because like if you're going to be using the short stubby logs, if you're using pads, sometimes you don't have enough space to jerk, or sometimes have you ever done a power jerk or split jerk where you've hit the pad in one foot?
And because I'm quite short, I don't find that. I prefer a stubbier log. But yeah,
I mean the width.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right, okay. Because it affects the width of your pads, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got short legs, you're not as likely to be that wide.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't mind that, but most people are going to be taller than
me. Yeah.
But yeah, I would imagine it'll be that longer log.
Yeah, so you should have plenty of space, regardless of whether you're push pressing or jerking or whatever. And the pads are always consistently good there. They've changed over the years. I think the strength shot ones at the minute, and they're brilliant for someone like me who likes to take the technique of dropping from overhead, essentially, but like doing like a control drop. Basically, I drop it from as high as I can to save as much energy as possible, whilst knowing that it's going to kill it and not roll off in different directions. And those pads are brilliant for that. I used them last year. Did 130 for 3 at England's, and I used that approach of just letting it drop, knowing that it was going to kill it, not roll off anywhere, not sag down too much, not sag down to one side. So yeah, it feels really good. So yeah, what do we think about? Somebody asked about how you would decide whether to go for the trump log or not, basically.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, testing your numbers in training. I think particularly with overhead, if you're utilising a technical approach, i.e. jerk, particularly split jerk, because it's very high skill level, it's sometimes, if 70 is your max ever that you've hit once at home, for example, on your own setup with your own log and a setup that you're really used to, it's sometimes a little bit unrealistic to think you're going to go and replicate that in a competition setting. For some people, I think for people that are maybe newer, it's sometimes more realistic because you get a little bit more out of the hype on the day. I would say maybe more if you're a push presser, you get a bit more of that out of that hype. For me personally, I find with overhead, if I'm too hyped, it's actually detrimental. And particularly being a split jerker, I think you need to be more calm and focused rather than mega hyped. So for me, if it was my 1 rep max that I'd only hit once, and it was on a good day when everything was aligned in my own gym on my own log, I probably wouldn't be going for it personally at a competition. I'd be going for a decent amount of reps on the lower weight log. I think if it's something that's under your 1 rep max, or something that you've hit comfortably for a good few singles, any day of the week, that a weight you're comfortable with, then yeah, go for it. If it's not a comfortable weight, I think it's sometimes unrealistic to think you're going to replicate your 1 rep max in a competition setting on kit that you're not used to.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. That's what I find. I find with overhead that I have to be. Overhead is the thing that I have to. Looking at my own data, it's the thing that I've almost got to have hit in training to. Like, I'm never going to get that much more out on comp day.
No.
Especially with making weight as well, and cutting weight, making weight, or whatever thing that. In fact, I would go out there and speculate that log is the number one thing that I feel that you see on social media people moan about underperforming on, which obviously I've said before, I do not believe there is such a thing as underperforming. Like, you do as good as you are. But I feel like you bang on, if you're hitting if you're hitting like 95% or whatever a couple of weeks out for most people, and you're expecting to peak your log, and it's going to be a different thing. Yeah, that was the exact approach that I took at OSG. I was going for I had the trump log at my comp recently, where the option was 127 and 140, and I ended up going for the lighter log, and I hit 4 reps with 127, which is a PB, which I would argue that realistically, reflecting on that, if I was doing it again in 3 months' time, I think actually if I'm hitting 4 at 127, now I've just got to peak my log properly for a single, and I should be hitting that, because I don't believe that even though 140.5 I think is or 140 is my PB and 100% right now, I do believe that I'll be strong enough to hit a significant PB if I peaked it well, like 145-ish, 146 maybe. So yeah, I think you need to establish where you are on that.
And I think as well, which probably maybe doesn't enter your mind as much because it maybe doesn't affect you as much, but definitely affects me, is it's event 1, which is often the case with overhead, isn't it? And I think for most people, you're a bit jittery. I still am, even after competing for a lot of years, especially at a comp that is either a big comp or it's a comp that I really want to do well in. It's high importance. I would be jittery on the first event, and I think if it was a deadlift event, first event, that is helpful for me because you've got that, I don't know, a bit more adrenaline, and that's helpful with something like a deadlift where you can just go and pull it. But with overhead, where it's quite technical, I find it detrimental to be a bit jittery, and I know myself well enough from competing a lot of years, I am likely to be jittery going into that event. So again, not a good scenario to be hitting 100% or above for me if I'm nervy.
Yeah, but if you are, say for instance, it's your PB's like say you're going for the 70 in your case, and your PB is 72.5. So I would encourage most people to go for the trump log in that case. So like, how would we maximise the chances of being able for them to hit that? What are the things that are potentially going to hold them back on the comp day on the log that's different to other stuff? And a thing that I've talked about quite a lot on Instagram and done various videos is the fact that if you're using, like, say you've got your log at the gym and it's a different brand of log, the hitting your same technique, if you just go and hit your same technique, you are just literally just hoping that it lands in the right position in the rack, and you're just guessing. So how can you actually work out in the short term what's going to be the best position to use it? And the answer is go and use the comp kit. So I don't know if you remember England's this year, but I turned up. I was like first athlete there, because what I wanted to do was go and have a feel for the log, not go and do a mad warm up, not go and do a 2-hour warm up, but go and feel for the log whilst there was no kind of no rush, and doing the drill where I get it overhead, and then do a couple of eccentrics, get the leg drive position feeling good. So I find the rack. So in fact, I'll show it on there. So it's not showing that. But so feeling the eccentric until you feel like, right, yeah, that's the absolute perfect angle to apply my leg drive. Find it, and then once you've found it, letting it roll down your body and see where it ends up. And then where it ends up in terms of whether you're belt clean or whether you're belly clean or whatever, you at least find the exact angle that you need to start that drive up of the clean from to get it finishing in the, because it's just going to roll and it's going to finish in that position that's going to be great to transition into the press or the jerk. And then therefore you learn exactly where to pick to. So it just takes the guesswork. When I started out, I remember people used to tell me where to angle the log, where to angle the handles. They're like, oh no, you need to angle it down at this angle or here. And you just realised that maybe they didn't do it on purpose, but it's just completely wrong because everybody, me and Mollie using the same log, become completely different because of our body shape different. Body shape is different. And also I notice as well, and say what I'll be like 2 weeks out versus after I've just made weight, that'll be a thing that I really need to study really closely. Like with sometimes when I get really lean, like my belt starts moving around compared to like, say I've got a bit of padding there. So that's why I like the underbelt. I almost use the underbelt to keep the hard belt in place and stop it moving around a little bit. But yeah, that's a real good magic trick. And what I found, what I actually did at England's this year, because it was 130, which, you know, it's a high percentage. I might have said it to you, but like I went in and I nailed 3, but I could have very easily no rep the first one. And then if I get the no rep the first one, then I've tried to wrestle with it, and then I go into the second and I might miss that. You could very easily no rep. And in that scenario where we've all had, where we've done an event and you feel like, oh, I wish I could just run it again because I know I can, you know, do that differently next time. So it's just offsetting just reducing the chance of this happening and not just leaving it to guesswork and thinking, oh yeah, it'll be okay. When I get out there, I'll just send it, you know, actually being more deliberate and studying the positions. So another thing that I did, which was very, very different to what I've seen anybody else do before, was I actually got Josh Walton to do this at the 105s as well, and he did really well with his log, was I got practice my cleans out at the front with the comp log, and then basically when the guys are coming out before me, you could still warm up in the back, but I was like, I hadn't finished my warm up basically, but then I couldn't use the comp log anymore. Yeah. So I was going around the back, but then I was thinking, oh, I don't want to, it was like a JT log. And I was like, I know where I don't want to throw myself with the clean. So what I was doing was I was just doing, I just did some, I didn't bother pressing it. That was it. I just did cleans with it just to keep myself firing, but not just so I could have missed like a 120 on the JT around the back. I built up to 130 in the warm up area out the front, so 100% to like the equivalent of you doing 70 in the comp log. And then I went round the back, and to keep warm, I didn't want to risk doing a 130 and then failing it with the JT and the position feeling, you know, second guessing myself. So I just did some like explosive cleans to keep warm with the 120. Yeah. Anything else on that? Oh, the other thing to study as well is working it as a percentage of what you can do. So I was thinking, using me for OSG, for instance, 127 at 140. I was thinking to myself, right, I need to be hitting, to even consider going for the 140, I need to be consistently hitting, say, 127, which is roughly 90% of the 140. I need to be hitting that for a triple consistently, which I wasn't. But then I reflect on the data now that I've got a 127 for 4, and I project that at significantly higher than 140. Does that make sense? So if you're like, say, doing the under 90s for example, you're doing the under 90s at the Kaos England, you got 100 or 120. So 100 is 83% of 120. So what I would even do, because you get some people ask me, like they might have done 100 for a 3-rep PB recently, 100 for a triple, and then be like, yeah, I'm going to go 120 on the day. And I just think you're miles away still. You know, I think 100 for 3 might project you more 110ish, 112 if you're doing really well, which is a big jump to 120. So 100 versus 120, if it's 83%, I would project roughly 83% at doing 6, being able to do 6. I'd say 85% roughly around 5. I'd say 80% roughly 7s, roughly. And obviously it depends from person to person, gender to gender, muscle mass, whatever. So many variables, but roughly ballpark. And then 100 to 120, 83%. So somewhere in between. So I'd say you've got to have 6 reps in there. So basically I'm saying that if you feel like you can do 100 for 6, like you're strong enough to do that, or you've done that previously, then peak for 120 and you've got the prerequisite strength. Yeah. But obviously with the equation changes from, if you look at the women's one, 52, what was it? 52 versus
70.
So that's nearer like, say, 52 divided by 70. So that's more like 74%, 75%. So it's a bit harder to. The miles apart, aren't they? Really, 52 and 70.
Yeah.
So
But I think
tens.
I think it's good the way they've done it
Oh yeah, for sure.
because. Can I change the subject?
Yeah, go on.
Getting really deep into
Go, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's it bridges the gap really nicely. There's a lot of people I'm finding that have done some novice comps. There's the one in January, people doing a novice comp at Chaos there, and then it feels like quite a step up to then go into like the pathways or the weight classes. So obviously now we've got the Unbreakables pathway, we've got the Natty pathway, and we've got this pathway. And I think without the options, it feels like a big jump up. Whereas I think 52 for the 73s, 52 log, is really nicely bridging the gap between those two kind of levels, where people will feel like actually that's doable, or even that's doable next year, coming from a novice, having like a novice year this year. And I think the Natty Englands have done that really well as well. The weight selection's good because 70 for reps is a challenging weight, I think, for the 73s at a decent national level. But then 52 is really accessible for people making a step up from the novice sort of level. So I think it's really good the way they've done that. I think one more thing about log and then move on. It's obviously we've spoken about it as if 70 might be the top end of what you can do. But if it's not, or if either of them are not, and you're thinking of going for reps, I think it's a good idea to think about your pacing as well. Like you were saying,
Oh yeah,
going for your set of 3 or 4 where you could have easily missed the first. I think doing some of these sets in training where you're going for a heavy set of 3 where you might miss the first, and then still keeping your clock ticking and thinking, no, I've missed the first, but taking a few breaths, resetting, and going for that second, because that's going to be helpful to you on the day rather than potentially missing your first rep, being a bit jittery, being a bit nervous. The setup feels different, but then having that skill that you've practiced in training to just put it back down, take a few breaths, you've still got loads of time, and then potentially getting a second and potentially even a third, and a successful second or third attempt. Because it's very easy to think, I've missed out, the clock's ticking, I'm under pressure, everyone's shouting, and then going in straight in for your second one, and you're actually quite fatigued from that attempt, that miss. So I think that's a good thing to practice. If you work out now, I'm going to go for 52 for 4 or 52 for 3, and practicing those timed paced sets in training at comp weight or near, it's such a valuable skill to have, because things don't always go right on the day today. You might miss one, and it's so distracting sometimes on the day when everyone's going, go again and screaming.
Yeah.
Whereas actually you need to think, no, I've practiced this, I'm going for my 3 attempts or whatever, 3 singles, and having that skill in the locker.
Yeah, so I've been more extreme, taking that principle, not just having it in as like a backup thing. Sure. Yeah, but like, well, do you remember at England? And I had you out with me, didn't I? And because I think since then there's stopped people having people at platform.
Because you cannot always hear someone. And
but we had log, and I was literally passing you my salts, wasn't I? Do you remember? Because I was like, right, there's no way on earth I can get 4 on 130, but ideally I'd get 2. Best case scenario would be 3. So for 3 best case scenario, 60 seconds for me, I split into 20-second blocks. So then I was going for attempts, regardless of whether I failed it or not. And I went for it and then put it down, and then I rested for the end of the 20-second block, and then started the second attempt at 20 seconds. So I was saying to Mark, drop it down, and I pass you my salts, and then you pass me my salts back, I pass you them. And we were doing that basically, which, yeah, you're not going to be able to do at most comps. But what you will be able to do, and which I've started doing in training, actually, I've got a kitchen timer that's just, it's unbelievable. And I just put the kitchen timer that was like 12 quid off Amazon. I'll put the link in this video. And I just watch the clock, and it just takes the thinking out. So I say, right, what am I going for? What's the best case scenario? Like you, for instance, right? You're going for 70. So if you get your log back up to best ever, what's your best case scenario?
5.
4. 4. Seriously, 4. Like, I'd be buzzing with 3. You might get 2. Buzzing with 3, you've done good. 4 would be like, right, we can peak for a new PB now. Serious. But like, Mollie likes to prove me wrong in some competitions, and she does a lot of the time. But most of the time, like that's a goal. That's a goal for your training phase, by the way. And if you're gearing up and you're doing better than that, then great. That's your goal now, isn't it? Do 5 to prove me wrong. But realistically, say you even went for 5, like you're thinking 12-second blocks.
Yeah, there's still no rush. That's what I'm trying to say. It's still, you still don't need to be flapping and panicking and going straight in after a miss. It's still quite chill. So it's about deciding how you're going to approach it and how the weights are for you.
Or even you smoke your first rep at 70 and then you start chasing it down. Like you're going to get more reps in the time. You're not.
No.
You're not. Even if that first one feels weightless, you're not going to get more than 5. Like, so don't chase it down. And little tip on that, obviously have your mate or whatever who'll help you with the timing. But realistically, every comp that I've gone to, I've had a word with the ref and I've said, would you be able to shout me out at 15, 30, 45 or whatever? And they'll say, yeah. The refs want you to do well. You know, if you smash it, it looks great for the refs. It looks great for the organisers. They want you to do well. You know, they're on your team, so you know.
Chaos are brilliant at that.
Oh, amazing! Yeah,
and either that or you're gonna. For me, I find if I've asked somebody like you, if you're doing my time calls, I can actually hear only you, however loud it is.
Yeah, okay.
So if you've got someone with you that you know, like your coach or whatever, then I think you'll always be able to hear them from somewhere, even if they're at the front of the crowd. But yeah, the timekeepers and refs will also help you out as much as they can.
And this is the kind of thing, another little tip, this is another kind of thing where your mate, who's not a coach, or your friend, or your girlfriend, or your family member, can really help you out in terms of handling you at comp. You don't have to be a coach, you don't have to hire someone to come and tell you the intricacies of your technique and stuff like that on comp day. You should already know that if you're competing. But like little low skill things that can be so valuable, like can you shout out every 15 seconds or what? What, go on?
I always manage to get it wrong, and your mum always.
Oh yeah, but yeah. Probably don't ask your family members, to be honest, because like Mollie always messes it up, and then it really puts me off during the set. That sandbag set that I did prepping for you, so that's horrible. And then my mum feels pressure. She did it at OSG last year, and said, "Oh, just video my overhead medley." And she's like, "Oh, Josh, or the deadlift or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, Josh, you're going to kill me," but I didn't press stop or whatever. But anyway, so I actually find that if you ask people who know you, who aren't actually your family members, it does work better. So yeah, that could be super helpful.
Right, deadlift.
Oh, one more thing on the log. Shout out to Andrew Clayton, who said, I read on his Instagram, this was literally, I think it was the night before OSG, before I did my log, and he said about the time thing and using your time. And he said there'll be some comps where you just won't be able to hear people, you won't be able to hear your clock, you won't be able to hear your ref. So he said instead of waiting on a countdown clock, you get used to your own breathing. And I just thought, that is amazing. So that's exactly what I did at OSG. I dropped the rep. I felt amazing after the first one, but I'm doing a set of 4, best case scenario. There's no way I could do 5. And I put it down and I practiced it in the warm-up room and timed it. And I was just going down, inhale, exhale for like 4 or 5. I can't remember what it was. And it just worked an absolute treat. And I was just addressing that 4th attempt. And then the ref shouted something like 10 seconds. And I thought, that is bang on.
Becca got it. Becca practiced that for years actually with the circus dumbbell.
The breathing?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, however many breaths. Because I think as well, if you're training on your own, you don't, there's not generally someone there to do your times for you in training. So yeah, she got really good at counting her breathing and absolutely nailed that circus dumbbell set at Europe.
Class. Event 2 then, axle bar, rep out into deadlift bar, 60-second time limit. Okay.
Next 3 on axle and then rep out on deadlift bar.
Oh yeah, okay. Cool. So what goes into your mind on this then?
So obviously there's the strap kind of question. Most people use a different set of straps for axle to deadlift bar. When it's a ladder, sometimes doing the first, because it's kind of a ladder, it's only 2, but doing the first bar strapless can be obviously quicker, so you're not wasting time taking your straps off. With it being a rep out, I would probably want to be strapped for the rep out. I don't know, I need to test it in training, it's something I need to test, but 130 suited axle doesn't seem that heavy, so I'm thinking potentially strapless for those 3. And then you can quickly then transition to your deadlift bar. Just have your normal deadlift bar straps on your elbows, quickly pull them down to get to your deadlift bar, strap in for that, and then it's going to be an AMRAP, isn't it, on the deadlift bar. But yeah, 3 reps on a 130 axle, suited. I'll have to test my grip, but I think if your grip's good and that's a comfortable weight, it's going to be quicker.
So I really like things like this that present. It's like bread and butter lifts, but it presents like a unique slant on it, basically, that's really hard to predict. You can't just say, oh well, that's 85% of my max, so I'm going to aim for this amount of reps, and that's what I've done before. It's like linking previous data to, I find it quite hard to project what you'd actually do on that. It's quite hard to. But you've got to look back at, like, say, when you did the Arnold Europe. How many did you do strapless at that? Suited?
It was unsuited. It was 110.
So like 15, was it?
And I did 14, I think.
Yeah. So you've got to think from that. You've got to think, well, yeah, you can do 130
for 3. Yeah.
And I just think and it's that's going to be that'd be the, like, in terms of skill within the training phase. That's what I'll be thinking when I'm writing your program. I'll be thinking, right, well, we need to kind of, not saying absolutely smoker in training, but we need to get a feel for some rep max work with axle straplet, with the constraint of being strapless. So we might do, like, say, a couple of weeks, maybe RPE based or something, where she's building up to something that will give her some data. If we build up to a top set of 5 and do some drop sets, top set of 5 with a couple of reps left in the tank. It's not going to smoke her, but it might give us an idea of a 7 what you could do for 7 reps, what you could do for 7 reps roughly might be around 80% roughly. Yeah. So then we extrapolate that up and we think, oh yeah, well, you're well over. Yeah. Or then we might do it. We'll probably start off raw to start off with, just to start off, see what your grip's like, and then if we think that that's going to be a goer, then we'll look at, right, adding in the suit. How does that how does that affect things? Is it, can you actually get in position in the suit strapless? How much do we crank the suit to get the benefit of the suit on the 155 for reps, but to not be so tight that she can't get down to position for the 130? That's so easy.
And also, you don't want to be then moving to your deadlift bar and it taking you ages to get in position for that as well, like having to get strapped in, edge your feet in because your suit's that tight. Yeah, it's all worth considering. I think a suited ladder there's lots of things to consider, isn't there? Like moving between the bars, moving between your straps and things. I would imagine some people will do this raw because
of that,
and because it's not that heavy, is it?
No.
I think some people think the suit would slow them down more. If you've got a very tight suit.
Yeah.
Some people spend a good 10 seconds, won't they, getting to the bar so that they can actually lift it. And however easy that is, you've then wasted a lot of time transitioning between the bars. I've got the beauty of my suit, which is very adjustable and lace up. So for me, I'd have it maybe not as tight as if I was, say it was that setup at Europe. So it was 190 for reps. It's one bar that you get strapped in before the time goes, and it's pretty maximal for that. My suit was nice and tight because it was, I got a 3, which was a PB. It was a really heavy axle for me. Whereas for a lighter one, where you're having to move between the bars, strapped to a new bar while the time's ticking, I think you would want your suit not as tight.
Yeah.
So that you're not wasting time getting down to the bar. And yeah, it's a lighter set. You're going to be doing higher reps, so you've also got your breathing to consider as well. You don't want to be your suit so tight you can't breathe because you're going for a lot of reps.
Yeah, brilliant. So another thing to consider with that, supporting Mollie's point, is what I think of is, like, say for instance, last time I did a deadlift ladder, I went away from my multiply suit and went to a single ply suit, and I felt that I could just get down to the bar and set up. I was nearly getting all the benefit that I'd get when I'm cranked up and barely getting to the bar in terms of top end, but it was so much more energy efficient for the slightly submaximal stuff to just, I'm sure I could set up with my hands outside my feet. I didn't have to take my feet out to get to the bar. So yeah, that's a thing to consider. Or like, say, what I would do now, because I've got the Cerberus suits, I've now got a size 48, 50, and a 52. So what I'll probably do if I do the 105s at this, I'll probably wear the biggest suit and just wear it pretty loose. The other thing to consider, which again, so what we'll try and do with these videos is we'll discuss it from, like, a coaching perspective and what we'll do for our athletes, and give anybody listening some ideas, but also, like, how we'll individually approach this. And you'll be able to see over the course of time that realistically we support everybody to be individual, and circumstances are complete. Mollie's log on this will be treated differently to my log. If I do what's the log? What's the log on this with the England's on? 130. Yeah. So if I do the 105s at this, the Kaos one, if I do 130, I 100% guarantee I'll be doing 15-second blocks, and I'll be doing, I know what it'll be like at Kaos. I'll be able to get somebody to shout out the time, whether it's someone in the crowd. I'll be doing 15-second blocks because I know for me that works, like cluster style, rest, pause, 1 rep every 15 seconds kind of thing. Like it just works for me. It feels amazing. Whereas some people find that, you know, if you get one with the 70, your first one in the 70, even though we're going for a similar goal, we're actually probably going for a similar goal, 3, maybe 4, realistically. But Mollie's approach might be, if she gets that first one in, I'm not saying she won't chase it down, but she might, if she feels ready after a couple of seconds, she might feel that she wants to keep that rhythm going. Does that make any sense? No. Like, what will you do on that? Would you take the 15-second blocks, wait for the whistle? Or would you just be like intuitive with it? No, I've got plenty of time to attempt 4.
I don't know. I've not started training for this, but the way, and obviously I've changed weight class recently. I've not done log in a comp at a higher weight class, I don't think. And it's a big, it feels very, very different. Even though log at the minute feels like everything up to kind of 75 feels so much easier. Now I'm a bit heavier, feels great. But then I missed 80, which is my PB at the weekend. And I think that like the top end numbers don't feel as good, but the sort of 70 to 75 feels better. So I'm excited to start training for this and test it actually and see how that translates to like a 70 AMRAP. I also need to play out
you've got your big goal now, haven't you, after this conversation? Oh dear.
We'll see. Game on.
Yeah. So what we're saying about my different approach would be on this 240, mine would be 240 for 3 on the axle bar into 280 for 280 on the deadlift bar. So what I will probably do on this, which, and again, I'll take a similar approach to what I said to Mollie. I'll max out my thingy first. I won't go strapless. I'll use Versa grips with the axle, because I used those Versa grips for the deadlift medley last time I did it on a normal bar, and it felt amazing. So good that actually I haven't got used to figure of 8s again yet. Since even last night, I went back to the Versa grips because they just feel consistent. But I didn't realise. I saw Meg uses the Versa grips for the axle. And it blew my mind. Like when I saw her do, like when I was like how she was doing like 200, repping 200 with the Versa grips. So I thought, well, if Meg can do it, like surely I can do it. So I tried it a couple of months ago just on the axle bar, and I was surprised at how it held and felt good with like 200ish. But then I tried to go heavy and I couldn't do it, whatever. But yeah, so that'd be something that I'll probably get into, because if I can get the 240 on the Versa grips, as soon as I finish that third rep, boom, it's gone, and I'm attached to the 280. You know, even in the suit, they're so quick to get attached to the bar versus the 8s. You know, if you're using 8s for the axle, doing that last rep, bending down, taking your 8s off, it's all energy, isn't it? It's all energy and time.
Definitely.
Yeah. So event 3, farmer's walk, 10 plus 10 plus 10. 2 lengths must be completed to score if chosen the heavier weight. No straps or adhesive, DW handles.
Weight choices again. So 65 or 85 for the 73s.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing on the deadlift. On the deadlift bar, Kaos usually use the like a bumper on the inside, usually a strength drop one. On the deadlift bar, the Texas deadlift bars they usually use, which feel amazing. But if you're just wary that they use the bumper usually on the first one, so then with the metal plates on the end, it feels like a little bit more whippy than it would be if you're just using powerlifting plates on the deadlift bar. So that might be worth considering. It does make a difference to me. I actually prefer less whippy setup personally.
Yeah, I think that'll be a bit of a weird transition as well, obviously, from the axle. It'll feel, very whippy, won't it?
Yeah, I'm finding it really hard to control actually at the minute, going back to the deadlift bar, even though I peaked my axle so well.
One to train, definitely. I think, obviously you'd want to train them separately, your axle deadlift and your deadlift bar deadlift, but I think close to comp would be good to actually get both out and practice training one into the other, because it's going to be...
Do you find it seems to be that people fall into one or two camps? One of the number one camp is they like training on the axle bar because they go back to the deadlift bar and it feels like they're cheating and it feels so easy. Whereas I don't feel like that immediately. I need to transition back over and it feels like I just get thrown out of position. That's what
pulled my back a bit doing that transition. Do you remember when it was bad, and did a lot on an axle and then thought, I'll treat myself to a deadlift bar, and actually it really put me out of position, and
that's it. Like my kind of trying to put it in layman's terms, I find with the axle, we do a phase of that or a stiff bar, I get really good at creating tension in my hardest position. I brace so hard at that initial inch as I break it off the floor. Whereas I do that with the deadlift bar, and what I must do is with the axle bar, I must ease off once I get it going in a good position. If I can get it going in a good position, I can keep it going. Whereas with the deadlift bar, what I need to do is like a brace and then I kind of feel like I don't hold my brace for long. If I don't hold my brace for long enough, then I get pulled out. I almost have to pull my brace for longer, it feels, to get the slack out and get it moving.
Harder to recover from, I find, as well.
Yeah,
Or
but
anyway.
yeah, but then some people think, oh, it's so easy axle more, isn't it? Yeah. So if you are in the camp of that, it throws you out a little bit, then just make sure you're just ticking both boxes. And in terms of programming, what I'll often do, someone like Mollie likes to do whole body approach. Like every time, you've always done, like, for as long as we can remember, like whole body high frequency split. You know, every time you go, most times, you know, your deadlift maybe 3 times a week at the minute. Yeah. Overhead 3 times a week, moving event 2-3 times a week. You know, it's frequent that she's doing, so it's pretty easy to put in the program, because one day we'll be like, oh, focus on deadlift bar, this day focus on light axle, strapless or whatever, and it just kind of fits in. Then as we get closer to comp, then we'll just be like, right, what happens if we pair them together in the same session or whatever. But generally, if you're following like say me at the minute, I'm deadlifting hard once, and I'm sometimes doing like a secondary session. So what I'd do is I'd focus on, like, say, my primary session, aiming to get my 280 for reps better and building my confidence with that on the deadlift bar. But then I'd maybe do the secondary session doing some lighter work, say with, like, I don't know, 50%-ish on the axle, just to get used to the different address. And if I feel like one or the others, like if I feel like I'm struggling to take the whip out, axle feels good, but I'm struggling to take the whip out of the deadlift bar, then I might put in the deadlift bar as the secondary session and not touch the axle. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is make sure that you've got your strategy sorted in terms of, like, straps and whether you use them or not. So the farmer's walk, I like the setup, what they're saying here about, you know, if you go for the Trump one, you're having to you're having to do 20 meters, because that sometimes when the Trump stuff on moving events, some people are, you know, they're picking it up, moving it a yard, and then they're beating everybody who's smashed it, who've taken the lighter weight, which is more impressive. We don't know, but this kind of addresses that, doesn't it? So
you've got to do at least 2 lengths, yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking about your weights and approach and times, and what would you hit in terms of your main? What would you be aiming to do on your main protocol on farmers, and then what would you do on, like, say, a secondary day? Do you reckon that worked really well? Cover that.
Yeah. So for me, 85s, it's all right. It's not going to be a maximal 30-meter farmers. I'll be aiming for speed. Like, it's heavy, but it's not maximal, so it's probably moderate to heavy for me. So I would want to be progressing my times for the lead up to this comp. I think because it's 30 meters with a drop of turn every 10, the turns are key, because obviously you've got an extra turn in there, haven't you, with it being 30 meters. So I'd be doing a day where it's light but getting loads of turns in, so practicing that fast turn and fast pick, and then probably a day of doing some heavier, because
then on that light turn, like light day, fast turn, fast picks, like that's something that you've got amazing at, like, and you've got really good points. There's been some times where you've beaten people who have got stronger pickup strength and better grip than you, when you've beaten them because you've drilled that. Like, what cues have been good for you to pick up fast? Like, how do you pick up the farmers? Like, what are your techniques you use for maximum speed?
So making sure the turn you're pivoting and not standing up, trotting yourself around and going back down again, just staying low and pivoting. Something that can feed into that nicely is holding the front of the farmer's handle, so you're not searching for the middle, you're pushing straight to the front.
Yeah, I like that one.
Having said that, I know that these DW farmers at Kaos are very long, so I'll probably go and test that at Kaos. Yeah. Actually, we've got a pair of longer ones, haven't we, recently? But last time I used them, I actually struggled with that front handle because the back was dragging, particularly with it being fairly heavy. I don't know if that'll work with these longer handles. If it was a normal, you know, a more compact length of farmer's handles, I'd be going front grip, because I find that assists with the speed of the turn, because you get that feedback from the front of the frame rather than it being, searching for the middle. I also find it a nicer pick when you're at the front of the handle rather than the middle, up to maximal weights. If it's maximal, I prefer to be in the middle. However, I need to test that with these longer handles. I know I had a client do a comp with these handles and she only just got away with it, and that was quite light, with it, you know, them dragging on the floor. So I'll have to try and test it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I notice. I'm like, most handles, I just go right to the front and you bang on there when you're doing it for speed. Like that's a good thing, because you could turn, and instead of like feeling your hands in the right position, what I used to do as a cue was I used to just loosely put my hands on the cylinders where you grip, and just slam my hand right to the front and just grab and go. So I wasn't I wasn't worried whether my hands were even, because I just slammed them both to the front. And like the idea that we've covered loads on social media is, I found that lifting at the front, and basically you're just levering that front end off the floor, almost like a car deadlift. Well, it is like a car deadlift, and that you get that little bit of momentum, and basically the farmers are already off the floor, and you're basically lifting the farmers a little bit off the floor before you've taken the whole weight, giving yourself like a higher pickup position and momentum going into it. And the thing that I speculate, but take what I say with a pinch of salt, is I personally found this safer for myself maxing farmers, because if I fail just at the floor. I can't even budge it. Whereas if I'm lifting in the middle of farmers, and say I get through, like say I break it like an inch off the floor, sometimes I can get spat out to that forward position where my back rounds and goes forward, and then I'm holding the weight that's being dragged in front of me. Whereas like picking it up almost like a lever, it's always coming in towards me. I'm never getting pulled out. So I feel safer to. I personally, if you said you'd go central for maxing, if I was going for 200 kilo farmers each hand pick up, which I think I can do, it would be at the front, right at the front, and I'd be like cheating that front end of the floor. And I've noticed how effective this is recently when I've been so disappointed going to a tried trap bar recently. I thought, I'll do like 400 kilos or something. I got an animal. That's what I bought. And I was like struggling with 250. Whereas I like go to like a 125 each hand farmers with my feet to the front, car deadlifting it up, just feels so much more easy for me. But obviously I've trained it and got used to it.
It'll be interesting. I've just done some heavier farmers today with those longer handles that we've got, and I do have to go in the middle for those, otherwise they drag.
I think that's going to set you up, because I looked at my video where I did 150 at the Chaos Classic, and obviously I was training those DW handles, which are my favourite handles ever, by the way. Shout out to Dave. Like they are. Like the week before Chaos Classic, I hit 156 for 10 metre drop and turn, and then at the Chaos Classic I hit my PB time 12.86 there, about 150, and then in that last training session I hit 171 for 10 metres with those handles, which I'd be, I'd struggle with 160 with other handles. So for me, they suit me because they're a tiny bit thinner. My hands aren't surprisingly quite small, and my fingers are a bit chubby. So it just feels really good for me. But that's the thing that I noticed with them being a little bit longer. I found that if I watch my turn, which was really good and really fast, my hands are just front of centre, just in forward of centre. So I'm still levering it towards me, but it's but like you say, not too like. I didn't feel like I was hitting the floor, but it just felt like it was, I don't know, if it went too far forward.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely be training on them to test that out before the...
Yeah. Practice on Astro. Practice on Astro, that's a big one. And also, this is the kind of thing that, it drives me nuts, right? Because now, like most comps that I do, I know that I get dirty looks when I'm warming up on certain stuff. And farmers is one of them, because like, I'll be doing drop and turns. Like I'll be thinking, what are all the points on? Assuming that you're going to finish. Like, what are all the points on? Very often I do it. I look at farmers that have won, and like I've gone head to head with somebody who's good, and then they've beaten me over 7-8 yards, and then I've caught up with I've overtaken her. Like on the turns, and just having it drilled, and yeah, it's just skill. Like it's so simple to train. I've had you doing it before where you've been like, had you doing like 2.5 metre drop and turns sets?
Yeah, I remember Paul being in the gym and saying, he's taking the piss. Why are you doing that? He's joking. It's got to be a joke, because it was literally like 40 metres with a 2.5 metre drop and turn. But it's good to get that.
Because it just becomes second nature, and it's like we are massive fans of coaching and drilling stuff. Not just coaching to get athletes to it, but even just our own practice to find out the best way. Doing stuff where the brain isn't having to think about cues. And if you just give like constraints like that, you'll find out what the best way is. And you'll be like, I found that when my legs were like jelly halfway through the set, I found that if I slip my hand there, boom, 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 boom.
And I think it's a good way of practicing as well, just breaking the line. If you've got a line that you can put at 5 metres, 2.5 metres, just nudging over the front of the line, it's a skill. And like you say, it's a skill that changes depending on what the flooring's like. So it's one to look at in the warm-up as well. How far, if I put it down there, how far is it going to slide over the line and cost me seconds to bring it back that extra couple of inches or whatever. So yeah, one to definitely drill at home, but also get get a good feel of on the day, because even though we train on Astro and it would be Astro at Chaos, I think it feels different that
Of course it does, yeah. And this is a thing that you study on the day, don't you?
Mm.
You go and study and you think, oh, well, how much, if little things like how much do I decelerate, right? Because if you don't decelerate, obviously you get there quicker. But then if the Astro 1 versus Astro 2, the handles are sliding more, then obviously it might be worth decelerating a little bit more, decelerate a little bit more. Oh, they stop dead and don't go for a wander. Boom, quicker turn. Things like this. Another little thing is look at previous data. Look at, like, say, other comps. This is going to be brilliant because you're going to be able to do your homework on the 64s and the 80s on before this.
Yeah, this is the last one, actually.
Oh, brilliant. Just go and watch what the other classes are doing. And little things, like, because you'll study the times on like the moving events, for instance, and you'll see, like, let's say the farmers, you'll be seeing what the standards are, what they're looking for. Little things like what I was doing at the team comp at Chaos recently. I was studying, like, where people were. I think somebody got penalised for sliding, and I was seeing where the cutoff was for that, like, because I knew it was going to be so close. Right? Do you have to actually take the farmers over? If so, how far over? And I suppose seeing what the standard is, and not just from the rules meeting, but, like, actually in the moment, like in practice, like, because you'll see if you watch a lot of strongman, it's tough to have, like, a standardized set of rules that's exactly the same for everybody. So you've just got, I'm not saying you're looking to bend the rules, even though I do, but I am saying that I'm not saying take the attitude of trying to bend the rules, but I'm saying don't be beaten by somebody else just because they've taken the initiative of, imagine losing somebody just because you were faster than them on the farmers, but you took it right over the line because you thought you had to take it right over the line when you only had to just break the line. Like little things like that, Right, should we move on? Yoke Sandbag run.
Yep.
So yoke into Sandbag run.
10-meter yoke, and then back for just one sandbag, isn't it? Loading it over your own yoke.
So this is pretty light yoke, isn't it? Is it?
Well, I think it's probably my favourite moving event combined with my least favourite moving event. So for me, it feels like the yoke is light and the sandbag is heavy. But I think that's just because of where my preferences lie. I think. Yeah, okay. I think for most people it's bob on. It's just.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, say, this is a thing that we've talked quite a lot about recently, is how your technique on certain events, your technique changes depending on how heavy it is, and there might be certain things that every 7.5 kilos for you on overhead for reps, your technique changes, whether it's like a reactive, whether it's a push jerk, or whether it's a split. And same on yoke is like. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be fast for you. This is going to be a thing for Mollie, which a pointer will be valid for the farmers one as well. Big thing for Mollie will be training how quick she is off the mark. I look at some of her moving events, like old videos, and it kills me. Obviously it's my fault because I'm the coach, but, like, it kills me. I hear the whistle, and then she starts moving.
It's not that long.
Like,
I've been practicing now.
Yeah. So what Mollie's actually done, she's since we pointed it out, maybe 18 months ago, was she's actually made a recording of her whistling on her phone, and she plays the recording to herself in the gym. So she practices listening to herself whistling on a recording to practice those starts. True story. But yeah, it has improved, and it is a valid thing because, and as daft as it is, like, say you're going, you're good at yoke, and you need to not make a mistake on. You're good at 8 kilo sandbag. You need to not make a mistake on the sandbag, but you need to try and get a head start on the yoke or on your head to head, don't you? Whereas if you're going, say, against somebody who you know that it's going to be really close, and then all of a sudden you're only a second behind, but a second, like, say, running a yoke could be like a couple of meters, and like, are you going to be able to close that gap down, like, psychologically and stuff? Like, it's so yeah. So for me, I'm thinking staggered start at that weight, assuming that it's similar to me doing 320. Personally, I just find this. I do it all the way up to maximal weights now. I've done like 470 for 6 meters doing the staggered stance, and like that was a thing when I started doing it a few years ago, where people said to me, "Oh yeah, great, it'll work well for the light weights, but it won't work when you." Whereas actually, for me personally, I've trained it so much that I'm actually stronger like that. Well, not stronger, but if you think about it, you're biomechanically advantaged by the fact that you're not lifting the thing as high because you're already in the. Do you understand what I mean?
And I think, for loading a sandbag, you want it lower, don't you, as well?
Yeah. But I think what's more important, see, a lot of people will take what you could do on this. You could make what I think would be a mistake would be you could go a notch or two lower, make that pick up hard, and for the value that you get for the lower sandbag load, which I think for most people, I don't think it's worth it unless it's really, really light.
No, but I mean, sorry, what I meant was I would have my yoke bar higher for heavy yoke or more maximal yoke, and then I'd have it lower for what would be a speed yoke, and this is within that realm of a speed yoke, so I'd have it on my lower setting.
For sure. So you can open up your stride more, basically.
Yeah, which I would anyway for that, but even better for
which I'm saying some people think, oh God, it's such a high load, let's go one lower and then kill themselves with the pickup and fatigue themselves with the pickup. Yeah. Because realistically, I think and this might be the biggest golden nugget that people get from this, because this is the thing that Chaos Classic, 2023, the one at Lytham, I couldn't even. I think mine was like maybe mid 300s. Really, a light yoke for me. I was good at yoke, really good that day. Even that day I was good, and then I couldn't even load the sandbag. And because I was so daunted by the fact that I thought I can't load a 120 sandbag over that, I was trying to shoulder it, and then I failed it. Whereas you watch the people who aced it, and I don't know why I didn't click, because I coached them, and I don't know why I didn't do it. But I think it was, there might be other people, but on the under 80s the day before, I'm sure it was like Dean McVie and the who aced it, I think. And then there was Joe and Tim Daglish, who were just, I think they were maybe second and third. And what they did, it just looked effortless. It wasn't, I don't think they necessarily came fastest, but it looked effortless. And what they did was they just took an extra pop on the clean, or an extra 2 pops. So instead of carrying it where, like, say if you carry it in your tummy or above your belt or on your whatever your rack position is normally for moving with sandbags, just taking the extra time and getting an extra pop and getting it a little bit higher, so you get to the other side, you can just drop it over. Somebody might have seen on Instagram, I tried it the other day with the 120. I think I did it to 60 inches, which is way higher than what my height would be. This is a thing to shout out to Donna Moore. This is a thing that Donna Moore helped her with, and I got her to do it, and she did it at the steeplechase at Brits, was it last year or the year before, and aced it. And she was just doing it on the pick, where she was going, instead of just rushing into the other side and then having to do a massive extension, or what you see some people doing, which I think is a massive error, is relapping at the other side when you smoked. Yeah, she just went pop, got it high. Yeah, so if you slow down, go back and look at that video and just watch her pop it. It was amazing, and just gives you an easier task. So yeah, I think that is the key to that event generally. Unless you've got I just think that's generally a really good thing to think about. And then what about the 80 kilo sandbag for you? How will you address it with the 120? I imagine it'll be stood upright. So what I'll do is probably go and do I won't run around the whole bag.
Is it 120?
What?
Not doing 180.
Oh no. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's 120 for the 105s as well. So yeah, what I do with that one would be it'll be stood upright, and instead of running around and decelerating and resetting myself, what I find generally the best for me is taking a big step around the outside. And I messaged Paul Smith before, actually, and I said to do on his sandbag steeplechase, he looked like, on his video the other day, it looked like he's running and doing the sideways pickup, but then he looks like he's just carefully reaching down to the sandbag like that. Whereas I've said to do, like, I think of, say the sandbag's there, I almost like plant my foot with intent, almost like a jerk, and almost like that, and I feel like I'm almost like potentiated or getting a bit of a stretch reflex, getting that foot planted into position accurately onto the side, and then double pop, and then twist straighten up as a pick. But yours will be different because yours is like slightly different shape, isn't it? We'll be able to cope, can it, or what? Or?
No. No, I'll probably tip it over so it's like long ways away from me, and then pick it that way. And yeah, extra pop.
Cool.
There'll be these strength register bags, so they're really compact. The 80 bags, not that big, so I'll probably do that.
And then what I'm thinking from a coaching perspective, when Mollie's saying that and what she visualises doing, what I'll do is I'll make it my objective. I'm thinking as a secondary skill day, doing the sandbag stuff, I'm going to try and get her 1 rep max up in terms of sandbag that she can just pick up that way without tipping forward. You understand what I mean? Like you're not confident enough doing it now, are you? But I'm thinking that shape, it's almost like a cylinder. Like you won't be far off doing it. But anyway, that gives you an insight into like what I'm thinking as a. I'm not saying she, and that's always what I'll do. I'll never say, right, Mollie, you have to lift it this way, you have to do it that way. I'll just usually get to learn skills and practice new ways of doing stuff. And this is the thing how with our programs, how we like say this is the thing. We'll do some form of everything all year round, you know, and be looking to just build up little skills that we haven't really done before, and until we get to the point where, you know, we can throw them in and use them as a tool for something like this. Right, sandbag to shoulder, last final event. So what's that, 50, 60, 70, 80. Tough one, this. Tough one to project, I think.
I've done this exact ladder before in a competition, I think, for sure.
Perfect. So what did you get? How many seconds?
Almost the 80, I think.
Oh.
I know, terrible.
But is it since then you've done 80 for 3 at UKNS?
No, it's 70 that at England's last year.
That sandbag? The one at UKNS England?
Yeah.
That was 70?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I've sent that to loads of people saying this is Mollie doing 83. Oh, dear. No, I thought it was 80. I don't know.
No, it's 70.
All right, fair enough. Right, so you'll just be aiming to finish that. But that's like a kind of thing that I find that generally, apart from your neck, it's pretty easy to recover from, isn't it?
The first few weeks it's awful and then it's fine. Yeah.
So I'd say I'd be trying to hit that in training. That's what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
And then that'd be the kind of thing. Like first thing is, right, is Mollie's objective going to be, right, we're going to get her to finish this, or because right now that'd be a PB and she'd be happy with it. But I'm thinking, nah, she can finish this pretty comfortably. She could probably finish it today, I reckon. But it's an example of how just doing like a linear peak up towards comp, aiming to build strength, blah 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 blah. Like you're kind of missing out on an opportunity to, if you test that, you know, if you're fit enough and strong enough and conditioned enough to feel like you can test stuff like this with a low risk of injuring yourself, then I think it's so valuable, the information that you get. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And you're going to be, well, for me, I'll be changing between techniques there. So I'll be aiming for a different technique, probably on the 50 and 60 as to the 70 and 80. So I think running that through, you get used to changing the technique. Yeah, I'd want to be, or even, you know, we're very lucky in that we've probably got all those bags in the gym, but a lot of people will have like 1 or 2 sandbags to train on, won't they? So I think
Not lucky, I've filled them all.
I filled on today actually. Practicing the different techniques, you know, like say you've only got a 60 sandbag, do it for 2 reps straight from lat to shoulder, and then 2 reps popping it up. So treating it like a light bag for 2 and a heavy bag for 2, if that's going to be your approach on the day, or a light bag for 3 and a heavy bag for 1, if that's going to be your approach on the day. I think that would be a good way of training. That if you've only got 1 or 2 bags to train on.
Yeah. And then from an athlete's perspective, so I'd be with Mollie, I'd be trying to, you know, be getting her to do the running training. So she's like, oh yeah, I can do the run. And then we work on stuff like, say, right, how do we improve the split time? And then ideally, when is it, March?
I'd want to be going to Chaos and using the strength register bags as well, because I think sandbags are one that are so variable, aren't they? Like the bags I'd use in our gym for that are all different brands.
Yes.
We haven't got any of the strength register ones, and they're nicer. They're a lot nicer than the ones we've got. They're really nice bags, nice and compact, but different to what I'll be training at. Different to, most people have got a jumble of different sandbags, haven't they? So say that going to Chaos and training that before.
So if that's like middle of March, so realistically, knowing Mollie inside out. Cut. No, like between now and, like, I'd actually want you testing that at least twice. Like I'd want you ideally testing that, say, in the next couple of weeks, thinking, what?
Next week.
Oh, great then. So go and do that run and be like, oh yeah, I can finish it, or I didn't quite finish it, but I think I can next time if I do this or whatever. And then you learn what you need to work on, don't you? you're like, oh yeah, actually the first two felt like that. Well, I don't even need to practice that light technique that I'm doing on that separate day because that's just bread and butter. I actually need to do more work above the knee or whatever. I don't know, but we don't know until we. And this is why, like, you know, I'm not a fan of, like, say, when I coach people, giving them loads. We were talking about this the other day, where writing a program for a client and not giving that many exercises and wanting them to actually do fewer exercises than they used to, but doing it better. And then when we get more data and actually get to know them and actually think, oh, well, actually, this is the weakness. So he's an absolute animal below the knee, but like above the knee, he's getting, you know, struggling. He's getting knee pain. What's going on? Like, right, how do we fix this? Right, and that's where the magic happens with the coaching and program. I find, yeah. But how do you know this? You don't know until you're getting the data and then working backwards from it. So yeah, I think getting you do that, testing you again, like about a month out or something, and then you might get to the point where, oh right, now I've nailed it. I did 42 seconds for 4. So yeah, an example, like say she does like 4 weeks out and she's like, oh yeah, I've nailed it. I've got it down to 40 seconds. Yeah, for the last peak, what we might be doing is like say 4 bag. Like we won't try to go more than like say 10% better. We'll be thinking, right, if she's got a set of 40 seconds a month out, like if we can get her to get 36 seconds on the day, we're doing really well. So then what I would focus on is, instead of like say progressive overload with the bags necessarily, I'd just be hitting, say, linking 4 bags together around that time, sub-maximal, getting better with it. And then if you've got somebody or yourself and you're thinking, oh yeah, that's really good, that makes sense, but I just need to be confident that I can do the heavy bag. You know, if you're one of those people, then maybe put some singles in afterwards, doing heavier. But yeah, that's my idea of doing it. And then for me, what's mine would be, I think 110. Yeah, 110, 120, 130, 140. So on this is quite an interesting one really for me, because like with lighter bags and sub-maximal bags, I'd say up to about 110. Like actually, I'm really good and really confident. You know, I did I think sandbag loading in a comp in May. I did 110 for 10 1 motions, and then top end for max, I feel like I'm really good. Like I did 160 at a comp within a minute, within 75 seconds actually. I think I did 160 over my shoulder and then 152 my shoulder within a comp. So in terms of strength, I reckon I could maybe do 170. But in this middle range, in the 120, 130, 140, as we're saying, the technique's completely different. One motion light stuff, I'm really good. And then the heavy inch it up style, I'm really good. But the middle range, I haven't seemed to crack yet. So I'm like a little bit slow. Like 120 for me usually is, I'm not strong, I'm not explosive enough to get it up in a 1. So then it's like I'm wrestling it up a little bit. Yeah, so that's what I need to practice. It's something that, like, say, I'm not that confident at those specific weights. But what I do with stuff like that, and I do with everything, as I look at, like, say, the best people in the world, say, doing stuff like this. So there's some data, if you look at OSG from, was it 2022? There's a sandbag medley in there. So I'll look at the times from that. There was Tom Butts did one for the under 90 Worlds, the one in Scotland. He absolutely smoked this ladder. It's unbelievable. Unfortunately, the last couple of minutes didn't record. So I just want to give a shout out to sponsors, Cerberus Strength. Use code Josh Lancaster or Mollie. Mol's now a Cerberus ambassador. So if you prefer to listen to Mollie speak than me, then use her discount code. USN J Lancaster 20 for 20% discount. And just leave us some feedback in the comments. Any questions that you feel, any questions that are asked in the comments on YouTube, we will answer. Any feedback, any direction that you want us to go in, whether you want us to do this again, what other comps that you'd like covered, any further deeper questions on the competition events, we'll be happy to help.